Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber. Today is for the haters, and with me, as always, is Matthew Tabor.
I like this topic because we're both. We are sometimes the hater, sometimes we hate the haters.
The
We're
hatey.
always I don't think well, you've been hated at times. I mean, anytime you release a video, there's a percentage of people who hate you. You know this.
Anytime you do anything at all on the
Anytime
internet,
you
there's
leave
a
the house.
percentage of people who hate you. Yes.
Once you get out
Yes.
like if you go left or right outside of your driveway, like
A
at
lot of
that
people
point
don't even
somebody
have to
hates you.
leave their house and somebody hates them. Like this is a pretty common human experience.
Yeah. We've gone through periods of hating some things ourselves. I've
Yeah,
probably been a
yeah.
more prolific hater over the years than you. You instead of hating something, if it gets to the point where you would rage about it, you tend to just like go do something else. You kind of ignore it, and you're like, "Ugh, I'll get
Yeah,
back to this."
and also my general disposition is that like I don't hate that. I'm just disappointed. It's that like old
Yeah,
parental cliche of like I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I will do that. I am a big fan of being disappointed. I am largely disappointed with most things, but hater. I don't know. That seems like really like another level of what would you call it? Like you really kind of have to be invested to hate something. I
it's an
just
outward disapproval as opposed to like I think that you tend to do inward disapproval, and that's where you're like, I'm disappointed by this, whatever.
yes.
Hating something is usually, especially in the modern era where you actually have a channel to direct disapproval towards somebody. 30 years ago you couldn't like see a movie you hated and then immediately tag the person who made it or was in it and just be like, you stink in every way and I want my 12.50 back.
Yeah.
You can do that now.
Yeah. On another topic, but sort of the same topic, I've read a lot of like really serious and terrible things about fantasy sports people, like literally
Yeah.
threatening to murder athletes for, like not making a shot or scoring enough touchdowns or fumbling or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, and I think that the fantasy sports people get too much of the blame for that, where I think it's more common now with sports bettors because somebody doing anything in a game can, for example, ruin a parlay. Where you need multiple things to have worked out to cash in on your bet. And if, some guy is doing really well and, it's a basketball game, you bet on him to score 20, he's got 18 points, there's 2 quarters left, and then he decides, or his coach decides to rest him. They're up by a ton, it doesn't matter anyway. Well, then the person who bet on that doesn't get their 20 points for a really stupid reason. If they stayed in the game, he'd score 38. And that kind of thing can just flip the switch from like disappointment and beyond frustration into straight rage. So I think I think sports betting is the culprit at this point, much more so than fantasy sports. But um, either way, you can just DM somebody, and the odds that they're going to read it, somebody with any decent number of followers, let alone like a 5 million follower LeBron type or something, the odds that they're going to read it are exceptionally low, but they're not zero. They're
Mm.
not zero at all. And I think the average person would be surprised at um, how often people read the comments, read the DMs, read the mentions, um, just across platforms. I wish I could think of an example I saw last night about. I think it was somebody who runs a gaming company, software like development type gaming, uh, and he's like, "Yeah, I read the forums and websites, and take some of that feedback into account and realize what see what angers people. We've talked at length about reading comments on videos. That's what tells you what stinks. It's what tells you what people latch onto, good and bad. uh, you you can't realize those things yourself. You have to have the audience tell you. But that means, I mean, I've read every comment over the years that's been hateful toward you. It's awesome. There have only been a few toward me with this podcast, and they're so insignificant to me that I can't even remember them. Yeah,
Yeah.
so leave a hateful comment.
Yeah.
Let's raise the bar.
I mean, we had just an example of what we're talking about a couple of weeks ago with Grant Cohn, the 49ers beat writer, where I think to some extent he has been a little surprised as to how many of the players listen to his podcasts or watch his videos or
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, and yeah, I mean, he spoke about the pretty frightening interaction he had with one of the players, Javon Kinlaw,
Oh,
who was
right.
really unhappy with the things that he was saying about him as a player. So, yes, you're right. The point is that today, as opposed to 25 years ago, there's a much different incentive structure and access to being a hater.
Yeah.
And the results of that have warped a lot of things, in my opinion. And one of them, which you mentioned earlier to me, was that it makes it harder to be a fan of things.
Yeah, and you talking about Grant Cohn reminded me, and Kinlaw reminded me of a situation that kind of broke. Oh, it must have been last week with the Boston Red Sox, which I'm going to bring up at length shortly here. But Jaron Duran is a Red Sox player for now, and yeah, he had kind of a spat with, I think it was Tyler Milliken, who's a Grant Coney kind of Red Sox guy, uh, and it got really personal, really personal. So like it yeah, I don't want to repeat what Jaron Duran said to him. It was bad enough that I don't want to do it on the podcast. But you can be somebody who talks about a topic like Grant does with the Niners and Tyler does with the Red Sox, build some kind of profile, and get to a point where there's a player who actually cares what you think and say, enough to occasionally lose it and be extremely rude. At the same time, the fans, whether they're, you know, I'm going to say professional fan, which is seems like a slam to somebody like a Grant Cohn because he's a journalist properly. But like as to distinguish them from being a fan, I am a fan of the Boston Red Sox. I'm a fan of the Buffalo Bills. I'm a fan of a lot of things, but there's no element of my working life that factors in those teams. So I am at best simply a fan. Well, even the fans, have the access that we talked about. But something that I've noticed this season, well, look, everybody's noticed it for a long time. You and I have talked about it for, I'd say, a year. Is the tone of fandoms changing, the experience of being a fan changing. And I really hoped that Grant would go into that. We didn't have enough time, really.
No, no, we didn't have time to get to, we got through like half the questions that I had written down for him.
Yeah, and that's such a big topic. It's like, oh, what's football slash specifically Niners fandom? How's that changed, over the last 10 years? Well, um, I think there's a phenomenon here worth pointing out, but I'll tell you what happened. Uh, so I'm trying to make this accessible to the people who use the word sports ball unironically. Um, Being a fan of the Red Sox is an interesting experience historically, right? There are a couple franchises or teams in sports where being a fan is a certain way, right? Like being a fan of the Jets in football is essentially tolerating perpetual failure, right? That's a unique experience. Being a fan of the Yankees is an expectation of success, even in years when your chance of getting it isn't realistic. Historically, the Yankees have been dominant in baseball. I forget the exact count, 27, 28 World Series wins, something like that. That's a certain kind of thing that being a fan of, other teams isn't. I like England soccer. I have since the 90s. And then, being there, 25 years ago and watching matches, getting immersed in, kind of a pub culture of sport watching that
with
is increasingly
hooligans.
that was different. I never went to pubs that were distinctly like soccer pubs. I went to general ones, but it's an experience that there's no equivalent in the United States, not as a whole. There's an equivalent in cities within the United States. So there are pockets of this, but nationwide, there's nothing like that. But we just saw England crash out last week in the World Cup. Um, it's been misery as long as I've been alive. That's a certain kind of fandom. Well, the Sox fandom was like that. When I went to school, I went to school right by Fenway Park. I liked the Sox before that. When you're in central New York, you can break one of two ways with sports. You can go to the city, or you can go to anything that's not the city. And that's why you get Bills fans and you get Giants fans for football. There's like you're on the cusp, and it's which way Western man, right? But you're not so far in either direction where the choice is obvious. You have to decide, really. It's kind of the same with baseball, where you like the Yankees or Mets, or you're far enough away that the Red Sox are really a thing. It's the same driving distance for me to go to Boston as it is for New York, and so it's kind of a wash. Well, I've always liked the Sox, but they were perennial losers and come close and not make it types, until they weren't in 2004. That changed everything. There have been several titles since. There have been really good years, awesome teams, and teams that are not that good. So with that range of 90 years of famously cursed failure.
Curse of the Bambino. Look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the tragedy of 86, which I was too young to internalize at the time. But I mean, it was bad. And it was like, how are they going to come extremely close and miss?
Bill Buckner.
Yeah.
Look it up.
I've never seen the full home run that Aaron Boone hit in 2003 in the ALCS, because I was watching the game, and I watched over 150 games that year. I missed a handful. And I just remember it so distinctly, sitting on my couch in Alston, and I was watching the game with my cat. And as soon as the ball came off the bat, with one hand, I reached for the remote. With the other hand, I reached for a bottle of Benadryl. And it was like I'd done the thing 100,000 times. It was a perfect motion where it was just like grab the remote and hit off, and then pop the cap and take two and go to sleep.
Wow.
So I saw the ball come off the bat. That's it. If there's a highlight, I scroll past it. It's been 23 years, and I've never seen that ball land.
Amazing.
Anyway, this is, this is the way it goes, where you have the great years and the bad years and the surprises, and then sometimes you get exactly what you thought you were going to get. It runs the gamut of all probability. Um, anyway, I enjoy Red Sox baseball every single year. It was the only thing that I followed when I would be outside the United States. I couldn't watch a lot of games then, but it was super easy to read all the coverage. And eventually with Twitter, it became easy to keep up with the fans and the minutia and be kind of involved in the Red Sox community. Well, this year has been completely and totally different because uh, the team was absolutely abysmal. And I mean, really, really bad and hard to watch at times. Uh, they had gone, I think, something like 0-34 if they were down by 3 runs in a game. I mean, so like something would happen where they would be down by a run or two
And then
in
that
the
would be
third or
it.
fourth inning, and it would be like, okay, it's game over.
Wow.
You know, um, and the community is what was really awful here. That's what I'm getting at. I'm used to hopeless teams now and again. You know, there's a reason why every like not every, but almost all the good ones, sports movies start with the team being hopeless. The Bad News Bears stink. They're the
Major League.
worst. Major League they're horrible. They're awful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in real life, the most compelling stories are like that. In 1980, with the Miracle on Ice team, they lost 10-3 to the Soviets in an exhibition game, like a week before the Olympics started.
I didn't know that.
Oh, they got obliterated. Horrible. It just embarrassing. 10 goals in hockey.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Double digits.
Yeah, if the Bills lose 10-3, you're like, oh, that was a low scoring game. Like, it happens. But when you get 10 pasted on you in hockey, you've got severe problems.
Yeah.
But it makes that win that much more compelling, is that there was beyond an expectation that they would get smeared. It was, we just did this. We got cooked and humiliated. There's no chance. And then they win, and it's the best thing that's ever happened in sports. Yeah. That's right. Again, this is what it's like to be a sports fan, right? You have terrible periods of failure. You have hopefully some success that makes it worthwhile. And if you like the sport, you like watching no matter what, even when the outcome is frustrating, when the gameplay is bad. Even the best people, the best athletes in the world just blow it, sometimes for a whole season. Not just a bad game, but there are people who just perform badly for a long sustained period. It's like, well, you wait until next year and hope it changes. But when you like the game, you like the minutia of the game. It might be a blowout. It might be a terrible performance, but there's something that you enjoy in it. Whether it's one guy on the team who's doing a little better than he should have. Maybe he's young. Maybe it's like, you know what? He may be really good next year. Can be anything. That attitude toward being a fan of something seems to be on the decline. And what happened this season was constant. I don't even know the right words for it. I'd have to think about it for a while to get it right. But it goes beyond being a doomer. It was. If I felt that way about anything in the world, I would not do that thing. I wouldn't watch it. If I was reading a book and I felt that way for one page, I would close the book and never open it again. If I was watching a show, I'd just stop watching the show and watch something else. Um, when something is mismanaged, which was the claim here with the Sox, you get angry at the ownership, at the coaches, stuff like that. And so it was, oh, we got to sell the team. The problem is private equity owns it and they make these bad decisions with personnel. And, they put together a roster that can't win. Well, they're not winning. You owe it to us as fans to produce a winning team. That's fine. But when I'm watching a game and I'm on Twitter and I'm, or I'm listening to somebody like Hogdale, who I've mentioned, he broadcasts on Twitch. I actually like watching the TV game, having him do the commentary on my computer, and then I look at tweets as I'm doing it. When like the slightest bad thing happens, or they're down a run or two or three or 10, and it's just like beyond doomerism. I don't want to participate in. I don't want to listen to that anymore, right? Because that's not how sports work. It's not how humans work. Which humans are little probabilistic, pieces running around the world, and sometimes they roll a 7, right, as expected, and sometimes they roll, 3 snake eyes in a row. It happens, not very often, but sometimes it defies what's on paper. And when you watch sports, you wait and see which one it's going to be. This is the other genre of sports movies that's really good. Necessary Roughness is like this. The football movie with
Oh yes, with like Sinbad and Kathy Ireland.
Sinbad and Scott Bakula. That's right.
Wow, I haven't thought of that movie in 25 years.
I saw it in the theater.
I
But
don't
yeah, the
remember
premise
anything about it, so you'll have to refresh my memory.
the premise is something goes wrong with the program. Like I forget the precise problem, but it gets eviscerated. Coaches out, the best players out, whatever. They bring in Ed Straight Arrow Gennaro to turn around just run a clean program. Like there's no expectation he's going to be good because the team's been eviscerated. So that's why they haul Scott Bakula, who's like 38 years old, in to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. They lose every game except, they're competitive in the final game. Little Giants is like this as well, where Rick Moranis gives this speech that's like, I beat my brother one time when we were kids, Ed O'Neill being his brother. And, that's what matters. You're in this game. Who cares that you're hopeless in like every other facet of your life? Maybe you can win today. And so when you have this team that's the worst in baseball, which the Red Sox were, you wait for those games. And maybe you have to slog through 15, 20 really bad ones. But occasionally you get something that's great for being a fan. Well, it got so bad, and I don't think using the word toxic is appropriate here. Because I think that word has lost all meaning, describing something as toxic at this point. But for the first time in my life, I stopped completely following along with and participating in Red Sox stuff. Because I'm like, other than a handful of guys, one of them being, his name is Ed Hand on Twitter. Really good attitude toward baseball. I like him. I kept following him. Sox Addict, I don't know her first name. I can't remember. But she just likes the Red Sox and just seems to really enjoy being a fan. Well, you can complain and lament. That's part of being a fan. But these are a couple of people who who don't make it miserable to keep watching, to keep following along. So I just followed a handful of them, uh, and that was it. Well, then something changed. The Sox started winning, and they've currently won 14 in a row. And the last time they did that was 1946. 1946, led by the fantastic James Rawhide Tabor, and very, very loosely and slightly supported by Ted Williams on that roster. Uh, but yeah, it's been 80 years since they ripped off a win streak like this. They go for 15 tonight. And the juxtaposition here is what made me want to talk about this, because it went from being sell the team, fire the manager, which they did. They did throw out Alex Cora and promote a new manager. Um, all the manners of fixes, whether it's signing people through free agency, making the trades you can, building for next season. It was a total write-off. Like 25% of the way through the season, everybody had given up, and it was pure misery. I listened to a lot of World War II books and a fair bit about the Eastern Front. And the Red Sox community complains more than like the Russians did in the worst of like Stalingrad, when they were resorting to like eating shoe leather and each other. They had a better attitude. Yeah. So now it's like as if kind of it never existed, this misery 2 months ago. They're above 500 now. They're in a playoff spot. They're playing extremely well, and they're getting lucky, which is always fun. The odd thing works out. But this is sports. This is when you're a fan of something. This is how it is, and why it's amazing when objectively a horrible team by every statistical measure surprises you with a literally once in a century run of wins. It's never happened since I've been alive. There were 12 wins, I think, in 1988. And that was cool. That's a crazy streak in baseball. 12 wins is nasty. But I think there's a proclivity to be beyond disappointed. I would be totally fine if they were all Kevin Liebers. If they were all just disappointed in the 2026 season, disappointed in this player like a Trevor Story for underperforming. That's sensible to me. Anyway, I've monologued here forever. I've made I've set the stage. This is the problem. Do you think, Kevin, that what's interesting is we're both big sports fans, but not really of the same things. So I know you get what I'm saying, but you see completely different stuff.
Oh, yeah, I'm not big into baseball. I mean, I am definitely in the top probably 2% in terms of following the 49ers. Like the type of person that's going to read a training camp update on a linebacker who's definitely not making the team.
I think you're 0.1%. I think you're way beyond 2%.
Yeah, I mean, they're people, they're marking their calendars, traveling all over to go to every game, and I'm not doing that. I will watch them all, but anyway, what I have noticed, and why this topic, when you brought it up earlier today, was interesting to me, is just recently I had been thinking, well, two things. One is that overall, I feel like this is largely an internet problem. But if I've noticed it getting worse and you've noticed it getting worse, then something has definitely changed. The internet has been around now for quite a while. We've followed various things from the entertainment industry to the sports industry, and what and how people are talking about it. and there has been a noticeable like rise in vitriol, and I'm not really sure I can explain it. So maybe we need to see if we can come to some sort of conclusion about it. But what I had been thinking about recently is just a question like, does anybody like anything anymore? Because no matter what it is, no matter what it is, the overwhelming reaction to whatever it is seems to be fury, like absolute disgust and fury over the thing for even existing, whether it's
Mm.
like a video game or a movie or a sports team or like whatever people discuss on the internet. Um, has always been like largely negative simply because that's what people react to. And if that's what people are reacting to, that's what's going to be incentivized to say, so that you get more impressions and whatever. Um, maybe it has to do with Twitter monetization. I don't really know what it is, or if there's just been some sort of cultural shift where, like, one thing I had been thinking on this topic is, uh, do people find it cringy now to like a thing? Like, are they afraid that someone will make fun of them for liking whatever it is, whether it's the Red Sox or it's Ted Lasso? I mean, whatever it is, some book. Oh, you like The Great Gatsby? Like this is a great example. This is a great example. I've seen so many threads about different books, whether it's Great Gatsby or Catcher in the Rye or like whatever it is, of just people crapping on the thing. It was, I don't know why they made us read this. This is complete garbage. Here's another example. This here, and sorry, I'm going on. There are so
I
many like,
probably started half of those.
well, you and I have had our own disagreements over those two books in particular, which is fine. I'm open to having interesting conversations, debates about things. I'm not really open to somebody just being like, "This is pure old garbage," and I'm not going to explain why I think so. Um, I forgot the other thing I was going to say because
Well, you can just assume it's all puerile
pure old
garbage.
garbage. Well, it'll come to me. It'll come to me because it has to do with, it's another node on like the spider web of the hater topic.
And I do think a lot of things are happening and combining into this phenomenon, which is what makes it, makes you identify a node, which makes me, um, throw out 7 or 8 different problems that lead to. I do not think it's one thing. Like, I don't think it's because of Twitter. I
Oh,
don't
this
think.
is what it was before I forget.
Mm,
Is this phrase, okay? Okay, you ready for the phrase that I'm so tired of reading? This is a dumb person's
mm,
idea of a smart person. Okay? Let me repeat it. Insert name here is a dumb person's idea of a smart person. I have heard everyone, every living being on planet Earth called the dumb person's idea of a smart person, which
mhm.
just leads me to believe that there are no smart people. That's where I'm left with. I'm like, okay, so then who's a smart person's idea of a smart person? No one ever seems to identify them.
No, no, it completely varies. I mean, you know, this really came from like Neil deGrasse Tyson, star of Vsauce 2,
That's right.
co-star of
My
Vsauce
good
2.
friend.
Yeah, he's just said and done some things over the years where it's like, look, we know you're a rabidly intelligent person and you know a lot of things too, but he'll swing and miss on something that just deserves a pile on, and so he gets it. And so that was kind of the original, I think, of somebody saying, this is like the midwits idea of a smart person. somebody who's extremely knowledgeable in the sciences or a subspecialty within the sciences, but who isn't cool with like enjoying Santa Claus, like letting a 6-year-old enjoy Santa Claus.
Right.
um, but you're right. It's expanded to everybody. I like when the comparison is accurate to me. I think sometimes I'll read that line or something close to it. That sometimes you'll see like this is a poor person's idea of a wealthy person and how they live. You know, um, it can be, those kinds of comparisons can be very funny and very accurate, but you see it constantly. You see it constantly, and it's just translates as like, I don't like this. I don't like this person, and that it ceases to be interesting at that point.
Well, yeah. To your point about the word toxic earlier, it's very similar. Where something becomes so oversaturated, then it loses all meaning. And I think that phrase is an example of that. Especially because like there are instances in which I know the person saying that is too dumb to understand
Mm,
what the smarter person is saying. Right?
yep.
Do you know what I'm
Yep.
talking about?
I do.
Where it's
I
like
do.
you're clearly you are the dumb person here, and you are laying claim to the smart person being dumb, and like I don't even know what to do at that point. But
It,
just throw out my hands.
it
Yeah.
loses all meaning on all fronts. Then there's no credit there. Even if it had meaning, there's no credibility from the person saying it at that point, and so the whole thing gets discarded. But there's this. I think the big culprit with all of this is honestly an experience that is constant, that is shaped almost completely by algorithms that cater to you. Um, this is what I've really been thinking about for the last couple weeks, is how uh, algorithms with everything uh, essentially create expectations that that real life plays poorly with. Okay, so an example is uh, you see a lot of commentary about physical appearance with men and women. Well, the women I see on my Twitter feed, and I don't have a feed that is designed for any of that. Most of my feed is like cats and sports and memes. That's it. But it's a totally different cross section of women than I see when I go to the post office or when I go to Walmart. They're not the same type. And the men aren't the same either. It's not just a woman thing. Uh, so oddly, real life is a different set of data than what's shown in my algorithm. Um, I see cats all day long on my phone. I have seen one cat this calendar year out in the wild. It was a neighbor cat that was on my lawn like a month ago. Um, so algorithm gives me cats. Real life doesn't really give me cats.
It's such a good example though of what you're
It's
talking,
real.
but it's very funny sounding. The
Yeah.
algorithm gives me cats, real life, no cats.
No, no, I get a cat a year. Maybe I'll see that cat one more time before the snow hits. And if that happens, it will be a real life success. Uh, but everything is really designed to be
Koalas
what I
would be a way
expect.
more extreme example. Is that you get a lot of koalas on
Yeah.
your phone and on your computer, and
I get
absolutely
zero in
zero
real life.
koalas.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to work very hard to get a real life koala.
Gotta
I've
get on
had to in the
a
past.
long flight.
Yeah. Yeah. It, but I mean, even the things that I see are there's an expectation about what people think, what people say based on what I'm seeing everywhere. You know, YouTube recommendations, Twitter, etc. Um, I think there's become a dependence on on the expected outcomes, where uh, if the Red Sox started the season in last place, very close to being the worst team in baseball. They were at times. When they weren't, they were second to worst. You know, 20 years ago, you'd look at that and be like, man, this is one of those seasons. Like, this blows. It's, you know, the paper bag over your head because in the stands because you don't want anybody you know to see you there at the game. Uh, but that would be the extent of it. You'd be like, God, that was the worst.
You got to cut a glory hole to eat your hot dog through.
That's right. There's the eye holes to watch the game because you did buy a ticket, and then the mouth hole for the hot dog. You know, um, that would have been part of the experience that that down year. Uh, Now, I think you're fed all sorts of hopeful news, positive news. These young guys are coming up, and they're going to be great. Barflug Narvin, I think seized on your paper bag hot dog hole comment. Uh, but I mean, you have this expectation that things are going to be enjoyable and good, and they're not always enjoyable and good. And so you have to find the enjoyment in the failure. Well, when do you have to do that now? You never have to. Everything is catered for your enjoyment, whether it's the cats and the women and the sports highlight. Well, you know, even the highlights are a good example. Kevin, I send you montages periodically of hits in football that have not been legal for 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I get a lot of those. I get specifically those types of videos. I don't get montages of the greatest catches in football history. The algorithm knows me well enough that I get illegal vintage hits. That's it. Like, it serves me a specific type of football content.
That you have to go 30 years into the past to even see.
Yeah.
You like literally doesn't exist anymore and
Yeah.
hasn't for a while.
Yeah. Uh, if I'm going through Twitter and it's, you know, no cats, no memes, you know, sports highlights I'm not into, then I think, well, Twitter sucks, and I close it. There's an expectation for me that I'm going to get the things that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is kind of everywhere. There's almost a psychological dependence on being fed what you want to see.
Or fed what you want to eat. I mean, this is like the Caleb
Yeah.
Hammer $26 lunch debate, right? I mean,
Yes.
I stopped watching that show because it was repetitive and it was difficult for me after like
Yeah.
4 episodes of it. But even within just watching like 4 to 6 episodes, there were multiple instances in which he's trying to have a conversation with someone who is spending, $23 a day on some salad. And
Yes.
he's like, you could make a sandwich for like $1.50.
Yeah. I
Why do
had
you? And they say, because I like it, because that's what I want to eat. And
right.
it's not more complicated than that.
There's an expectation
Yeah.
that
It's the same thing.
you should be given or have access to, deserve whatever. It's a big umbrella of feelings, but the expectation is that it should be coming your way in a certain way. And I think that a fair amount of the the hate, the vitriol, whatever, it's different now than it was 10 years ago or 5. It's not the same at all. I don't think people are any different. I don't think their passion about sports or politics or anything else is any different than it was. It's always been pretty much the same. What's different is the expectation for how it should be working. And so when it doesn't work out, when a team that should be uh, good, not great, there was no expectation that the Red Sox would be the best team in baseball. None. But there was an expectation that they would be like a wild card level, decent team, a team competing for a playoff spot. That was the realistic expectation coming in. Well, being the worst in baseball is a far cry from that, right? Like that's a big rift. And I don't think people can handle that rift between the expectation and the reality. I can see them. They're not even handling this win streak in a normal way. That's the same phenomenon where the expectation was set as low as it goes, and then the reality is they've won 18 or 19 of the last 20 games. I mean that's bonkers in baseball. Absolutely bonkers. It's like they've never experienced uh, the rift between expectation and reality ever before. Um, on both the positives and the negatives. I've seen both in like the last 3 months. 100 games of this season have given me both. One of the worst performances of all time with the baseball team, and then one of the very best of all time, tied for coming close to being the best ever. The juxtaposition is crazy because I'm seeing the same people react to both. Well, this I think there's an unhealthy dependency on the expectations. That's what I've concluded. Um, that people expect every movie to be better than every movie that has ever come before. They expect every movie in a franchise to be as good or better as everyone that comes before it. That's not how variation works, right? There's variance with all things. You know, there's this. I think Thomas Sowell said that equality is a very flawed concept because the same man isn't equal to himself on different days. You know, you have days where you are 10 out of 10 Kevin Lieber, and you probably have days where you're 2 out of 10 Kevin Lieber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When you put it like that, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I have good days and bad days, and I'm me the whole time with the same life. Like, of course, there's variance. There's no variance in an algorithmically driven thing, not variance that you notice. Um, not now, because it's so good. When there is a problem, and we've seen people complaining about um, the YouTube algorithm not giving them things they like.
Mhm.
When when it's not working well, you notice instantly. Yeah, people have noticed with the YouTube stuff. Um, it it differs from a really steady good supply that they depend on at this point. I think there's a betrayal. They feel betrayed when the algorithm doesn't produce. Well, unfortunately, real life, which sports is a great example of, um, doesn't work that way at all. And you have frequent betrayal. It's constant. Uh, it's constant. Right now, the success is a betrayal of the failure on paper. It works both ways. But I think it's extremely unhealthy that we're really dependent on.
Is this what brain rot kind of is? Is this a downstream effect of brain rot? Is
I
this
think
like
it's parallel.
a tangible symptom?
I think it's the same sort of phenomenon that's operating in tandem. But brain rot is so good because it's perfect for you. It's perfect. Like,
Otherwise, it wouldn't work. By
yeah,
default,
there's
just by default,
exactly.
it would not
Exactly.
work on you if it wasn't working on you.
It's like if junk food didn't taste awesome, it
Yeah.
wouldn't exist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like literally nobody would eat it. But it tastes amazing, you know? Uh, so yeah, I actually, it was tempting to look at the people freaking out about the sports stuff and say these are like broken people. They're assholes. Some of them totally are because they just are. But I think most of them are not comfortable with the variance that real life delivers. Um, I think they've become divorced from that. Macon Industry says, how can I get my dopamine hit? I'm reluctant to go in that direction because I don't know enough about it. Maybe Kevin, you do. I don't. Um, but there's a chemical element at play with all of this stuff.
Well, and dopamine culture is like largely a thing that is was coined as a term for what you're talking about, which
Mm.
is yes, everything being at like a 10 in terms of uh, zapping your full attention. And then if something is disappointing, you just rage like a toddler, I guess. That's kind of like what your theory is here, right? It's
Yep.
like when, yeah, things aren't like perfectly the way you expected them to be. I mean, this is very toddler brained, isn't it? Isn't this like why toddlers have tantrums? Is because it's like, I'm sorry, you cannot have cookies for dinner. And then they
Yeah.
explode because they want cookies for dinner because they expected to eat cookies. They want the cookies. You told them no, no cookies. And now kicking and screaming on the floor or kicking
I
and
think it's
screaming in the aisles of the supermarket because you're not going to buy them the candy.
yeah. I think it's extremely immature. Like it's being reduced to a less advanced state, right? I put a comment on the screen from long time Create Unknown listener and supporter Antimatter Tape about the arts and humanities being undervalued by tech people. Uh, I think that's completely true. Completely true
They've been
that,
undervalued by schools too. Dude, this is like not just tech. It's like everything.
yeah, there's not been much of a focus. There's not been very many people. There's been a tremendous decline over the last 20 years in the number of degrees given out in the humanities, for example. It's a tiny percentage now compared to, um, 25 years ago, we were college age, and there's quite a lot. Well, there's like 2/3 less now in the humanities than 25 years ago. But the rest of this comment has a previously unobserved influence on modern day society, which is totally accurate about the tech stuff. This is not the changes in the way we used the tech stuff is not the same as even 30 years ago. Been this way for a while, but you can see it particularly clearly with how AI is marketed as a replacement for thinking and learning. That part got cut off on the screen. Uh, I think I sorry, I just got a message, oddly, from somebody who I'm about to bring up. Uh, yeah, this is a phenomenon that I think we should do an episode on in a little while, not next week, but a while, about um, how thinking and learning and knowing things has changed. Uh, but you mentioned this toddler brain kind of thing with it's a it's such a seminal problem. It's so basic that it's almost hard to describe. It's like if somebody asks you, what does air smell like? You're like, I don't know. When I've seen people like bottled water being marketed, it's like, this water tastes great. Water doesn't have a taste at all. How does water taste great? It either tastes like sulfur, it tastes bad, or it's the absence of bad. Great tasting water is zilch. Um, anyway, uh, I was talking to a friend of mine. His name is Michael Strong. He he runs a thing called the Socratic Experience. He's big on the arts and humanities and has been forever. But really exceptional guy. But he grew up on a farm, really an operating farm in Minnesota in like late '60s, early '70s, and he wrote a short little book about his life. And I read it a couple of weeks ago. He talks at one point about stepping on a pitchfork in the barn, and the tine of the pitchfork went all the way through his foot. He was like 15 or something. Uh, that uh,
It sounds horrible. It sounds truly horrible.
really horrible. Uh, but we were talking last week, and I said, hey, those sorts of accidents happened all the time. And you would see people with mashed thumbs from hitting their thumb with a hammer. You'd see scrapes and cuts. You'd see a lot of kids wearing casts. This is something he pointed out to me, is how rarely you see kids wearing casts now.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
said that. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen a kid wearing a cast in a really long time. There were always kids in casts in the 80s and 90s.
Here's a quick story about kids in casts, okay? I had been thinking recently there were like several things that got banned because of my friends and I. And here's one of the things that got banned, okay? And it's because a kid broke his arm.
Mm.
Back in the day, when we were children, there was a gym that had a huge parking lot. Still has a huge parking lot. It's in fact where the Baseball Hall of Fame does their induction ceremony.
Oh, yes.
So you could imagine that it is a big piece of land and a huge parking lot.
Yeah,
Well,
it's probably like 12 acres. That campus is probably 12 to 16 acres.
it's a big spread, okay? And the parking lot is insane. And when it snows a lot, what they do is they have to plow the parking lot and they push all of the snow into what's called a snowbank. Now, when you have a huge parking lot and you have a lot of snow, it creates a massive, massive snowbank that when you're like 10 years old is really awesome to play on.
It's Everest.
It is really fun to climb and it is really fun to push other kids off of the top of, okay? It's called King of the Mountain. That's what the game is called. You get a bunch of kids and you have snow pants on and your gloves and your hats, and it's cold and it's winter, but you're on a huge pile of snow. You climb to the top, and whoever is at the top is the winner for about 10 seconds before they get pushed off by somebody else. Anyway, long story short, I believe it was a kid named Chris got pushed off King of the Mountain right on his arm, smashed that thing into pieces, broke it badly, and that was the end of King of the Mountain. Before then, the people who worked at the gym didn't care. We were
Didn't
just
care.
kids. We were just kids playing on a pile of snow. As soon as someone broke their arm, that was the end of the game.
I think he had a purple cast.
Oh, you remember this?
Yeah, I remember this, and I'm pretty sure he had a purple cast.
Okay. I don't remember the
Um,
color of the cast.
yeah, yeah.
I don't remember what
This
grade it was. It's like fifth grade, fourth, fifth grade.
You can't get hurt when you don't go outside at all and you don't have any friends.
Well, that's a really good point. Yeah.
You can't do the sorts of things that break an arm by clicking the Minecraft mouse too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this was a broader discussion that Michael and I had about how there's a real difference in the amount of pain that people feel now compared to a generation ago, which would be us, really, or 2, 3 generations when we're talking parents, grandparents, stuff like that. There was a lot of normal pain when that happened. When Michael stepped on the pitchfork, the county didn't pass any laws about like children working on farms and like safety sorts of things. It was just like, kid stepped on a pitchfork. That sucks. Heal up. Don't do
Right.
that again. That'll be the last time, you don't put the pitchfork back in the corner or hang it on the wall. Like, live and learn, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
um, but there were constant, uh, there was constant pain. And it's a great thing that we're not in pain anymore all the time. It's amazing. One
Yeah.
of
I
the
don't.
best
I don't want to
things.
break my arm. Who wants to break their arm? Nobody.
No, I've never
Sounds
broken a
terrible.
bone, and I don't want to. This is awesome. So it's obviously a really good thing. It's an improvement. At the same time, uh, what changes when you go through life not ever having experienced normal pain or disappointment or uh, deviations from any kind of reality, or eating something that isn't the number one thing on your mind right now. I'm hungry for this, and I guess I have to eat what's in the fridge instead of door dashing or just running out to Walmart and getting it. Um, what's lost? What's lost when uh, you never do anything that makes your body sore, right? Like, it's weird because you don't want to be sore. You don't want to get dumped. You don't want to get broken up with in a relationship. That's awful. It sucks every time. Nobody is okay with it. If they are okay with it, they've become numb to something bad. But can you imagine getting to like 40 years old and never going through a failed relationship or a rejection of any kind? Well, you would look at that person and say, there's probably a lot they don't understand because they never went through this bad thing. I imagine when they, not that the 40-year-old who's never dated is all of a sudden getting a rush of partners at 44, but let's say they do, it would obliterate them to get broken up with for the first time at 43. It would be impossible to deal with. Not so much when it's like the 15th time it's happened.
Well, I
So
have I have a couple of things I want to say. Getting back to the original topic about noticing the hatred. I agree with your variance theory. That's really
okay,
interesting. I hadn't thought about life being like very kind of flat, and then when when you are subjected to some kind of bend in the waveform, It's really uncomfortable. Here's the other thing I want to. Here's the thing that I want to throw at you, which is what I'm going to call the hate. No, do I want to call it the hate? The negativity snowball. We'll call it the negativity snowball because it doesn't have to be hate. But the negativity snowball is this sort of self-feeding system where, let's say, a new movie trailer comes out, and it's a movie called Baby Chefs. Did you see this thing the other day? The
Is
baby
this a real
chef.
example?
No, no. There was some like New York Post or something article about some celebrity
Oh,
hiring a chef for their baby.
yeah, I
And
saw that headline. You may have sent me the headline on that. But yeah, it was like 6 figures a year to make food for their babies.
for their baby, but they called
Yeah.
them baby chefs. And then I
Yeah.
instantly thought that that sounds like a 90s Disney movie called Baby Chefs,
Yeah, it's like Boss
probably.
Baby.
Yeah, with like
Yeah.
Danny Glover and Christopher Lloyd or something as
Yeah.
like, this surly old chef who has to deal with the new baby chefs in town. Okay, whatever. And now I'm going off on my baby chefs pitch. Um, so let's say there's a new trailer for Baby Chefs. You go to see what other people think of it, and it's nothing but like, I hate Baby Chefs. I can't believe they're making Baby Chefs. They're remaking Baby Chefs. This is garbage. The director sucks and has never made a good movie in his life. I hate the baby that they chose to be like the lead baby in Baby Chefs. Okay, this is
I
all that
hate
you.
babies and I hate
I hate
chefs.
babies, hate
And they put
chefs.
them together.
I hate the culinary arts in general. Um, uh, you have to be a very particular, um, probably high in disagreeableness. Um, I wonder if there's anything else you'd have to be high in. You might just need to be like a particularly disagreeable person for that not to affect you. Like to see everyone hate a thing, and for you to say, "Well, let me make up my mind about this." Like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to be influenced by everyone else thinking this thing sucks. This will have no bearing on my opinion. It's like, yes, it will. It absolutely will. This is coloring and tainting how you view this thing. When you see, I don't care how disagreeable or how, of a unique thinker that you are, you're going to be influenced, even if it's just 5% of your opinion is influenced by this. Well, if we're in a place, in a world of haters, in a place where everything that comes out, or like every post that is surfaced in your algorithm that you're talking about, is like ripping on a thing, hating a thing, doing that kind of like, can we talk about how this thing that everybody liked actually stinks? There's like
Yeah.
that genre of post where it's like, could we talk about how like the Lord of the Rings movies actually were total garbage and you should kill yourself if you liked them? Like that
I've
genre
seen
of
those
post.
tweets. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, this thing you enjoy is stupid as hell.
Right. This thing that you enjoy actually, and everybody agreed was good, now is bad. When you see so much of that, it has, I think it has this snowball effect where it becomes hard to shield yourself against not falling into that trap, and not being like, yeah, I actually also think that baby chefs suck. Whereas, like, I genuinely think like a few years ago, I do think this is not like, oh, the internet ruined everything. Like, I do think that things are different. Like, as of recently, where you see baby chefs, some people are like, ah, that looks okay, and you move on with your day, rather than now there is like an online like campaign. Someone is seeking signatures to get baby chefs pulled. Won't you sign the change.org uh, petition? Like,
Yeah.
everything is that level of hate. And so what do you think of that? The negativity snowball.
I, I think, oh, so as you've been talking, I've been trying to remember the cognitive science behind what I want to say, and I can't do it. I can't do it. So if anybody listening uh, knows this or pretends like they know because they've Googled it fast, I don't care. I just want the truth on this. But it comes down to negative things being much easier to process and understand. It's very obvious. Kevin, what food do you hate the most?
I do not like celery at
Yeah.
all. Cooked
Okay. You
celery is okay, but like raw celery, like a stalk of celery, if you put that in my face or in my potato salad or anything approaching something that I want to eat, I will not eat it.
Yeah. You just gave an immediate and highly specific, detailed answer to what food do you hate. When we were talking with Justin, the question came up, what would your death row meal be? What would your last meal be? You want to choose the thing that you like eating the most. It's a hard
Way
question.
harder. Way
It's
harder.
really hard. It took you a while. I jumped in to say what mine would be to give both of you time to think about it because you
Yeah.
needed that time. And Justin gave a great answer about just raiding a French bakery. That was awesome. That was awesome. Um, but it took a while to get to uh, what that would be and why. Whereas I ask you what you don't want to eat, and it's obvious, it's immediate.
I hate like a handful of things though, and I like a lot of things.
Well,
So
that's part of the
the
problem.
proportion is off.
The proportion is off, and you know you really want to get it right too when you're ranking things that you enjoy. That's what's the worst movie you've ever seen? It probably wouldn't take you that long to come up with that. What are the 5 best movies you've ever seen? It would take you a month.
That's
It's
hard.
taken you a lifetime, and I bet you're still not confident in that list. You know, you would never be able to give an exact 5 where everything was in the right place and feel 100% confident
The
about it.
easiest way to do that, which is a different way to answer the question, would just be to rank the 5 movies I have rewatched the most. But that's a different question.
That's it.
But
That's true.
you could kind of maybe, yeah, fool yourself into saying, well, if I watch them the most, then maybe they are my favorite.
You're coming up with a rule at that point
Yeah,
to
making a
make it
rule.
easier.
Guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah,
Guidelines.
yeah. As opposed to like, oh, what food do I dislike based on the number of times I've like gotten explosive diarrhea. Well, there you've got a rule, you know. Um, but that's an example of disapproval, something a negative judgment, a negative reaction being so much easier. It just is easier if you're watching a TV show or reading a book like you've done this in the last few months. You were telling me a couple weeks ago about having this just terrible streak of books that you didn't like.
Yes.
And you knew exactly what you didn't like about each of those books and why you eventually put the thing down. So you're reading along. This stinks. You know why. But it's not the same when you like something. You know, when you're reading a book you like or watching a movie, it's not as obvious why you're really into it. Sometimes it is. Um, you know, I'm into like Chuck Norris movies because I like the simplicity of them and I like the stupidity and the extreme violence. I'm entertained by those things. So when they happen in the movie, I can say I like it because of this. Generally, though, you know, I'm watching on MGM Plus a show called From, which is 50% Lost and 50% Walking Dead. That's the sort of concept of this. It's good enough for me to keep watching. I like watching this show. I'm on the 3rd season of 4. Um, I can't give you a full rundown of what I like about it. I watched Krull a few weeks ago because we talked about it.
Oh yeah.
We talked at the time about what sucks about Krull.
Yeah, yeah. It stinks, but I really like it.
It stinks. The presence of the glaive, the way it's treated, is such a misstep. It's obvious what we thought sucked about that movie and what would have made it great. So if you're like, oh, they love negative, I don't think people like the hate or the negativity any more than I think everybody would just rather enjoy things. But it's easy and it makes sense. It's quick, it's obvious. Uh, it's like a ball on a tee. And liking things is whatever the opposite of that is. It's the, oh, I'm getting 100 pitches from Greg Maddux in his prime. That's what it's like to like things. And we've seen this with the Odyssey discussion, where 98% of it is what people hate about the concept. They hate about the casting. They hate about, uh, remakes, reinterpretations, all of this. Flooded my feed completely. Well, once it came out, people started seeing it. A couple of them, liked it for different reasons. And they tried to make their case about what they enjoyed, whether it's Kyle Smith. I think he still writes in the Post. Um, Kino Corner had good things to say about it as well. But it's a much harder case to make to people and have them understand what it is. Uh, Even goofy examples of this. Um, you know, Angry Video Game Nerd shits on NES games for how many years? It's easy. Those videos are great.
That
I
is a really
love
good
them.
example of what you're talking about. Yes, that's a really clear example where it is really easy to hate on
Yeah.
Fester's Quest or whatever than it is
Yeah.
to be like, here's why I love Fantasy Star.
I watched a couple weeks ago an irate gamer video because we were talking about Chris Boris. I forget why he came up. You remember this?
And he might have came up. He was mad recently that he wasn't included in
Oh,
some
that's what it
sort
was.
of like Mount Rushmore of
Yeah.
2012 YouTube gaming
Yeah.
discussion.
I watched one of his videos. I think it was about Aladdin, which that game has a lot of problems. It's an entertaining video, and I liked his videos when they were coming out, like for what they were,
The
right?
Genesis or the Super Nintendo
I
Aladdin?
think it was Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I never had it, but I'm watching this video and I'm like, this game seems extremely frustrating to play. And I'm sure it was like $55, which is the equivalent of like $8,000 now. And being frustrated in these ways by, Abu just being a useless character that follows you is maddening, right? Yeah. Well, if Johnny Millennium is doing happy console gaming, uh, it's harder to understand. The people who get it are going to love it, which is why Johnny's still going strong. But when you look at these two things, well, yeah, irate gamer is once again irate, this time because he's not on the Rushmore of original angry gamers. Um, but it was easy to process. It was easy to watch it and know why he was saying what he was saying, match it with the gameplay. It was easy. I enjoyed it despite not even owning the console it was played on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's a 20-minute video essay about why, you know, some game is just fantastic,
Just say the same game. Somebody loves Sega Genesis Aladdin, and that video is boring to you.
I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't get it. It's such a hard sell, right? So you have this combination of factors where you are totally under a barrage to the point of having become dependent on it. And I do think this is a dependency complex with being subject to algorithms designed to make you satisfied with what you're doing. Not necessarily happy, but it's giving you what you want for one reason or another.
It's holding your attention.
It's holding your attention, it's satisfying your desires. You're dependent on that. And then the easiest possible thing to do and the easiest thing to understand and have it resonate with you is negativity, is negative judgments. So you have these two forces combining, and it's brutal. The outcome of those two things working in tandem is misery. It is constant, beyond disappointment, beyond dissatisfaction. It doesn't even feel like hate is the right word to use, because hate comes from somewhere. Hate comes from something to have a reaction that strong. This happens like instantaneously. What we're seeing is, it's not like deep-seated hatred.
It's like Stadler and Waldorf from the Muppets. It's like everyone on the internet is Stadler and Waldorf, like up in the little balcony there, just ripping on everything, no matter what it is. I really want to. Can you highlight? How do you highlight these things? Show on stream.
If you hover over a comment.
Jeff Strife says we are judged and criticized more by the things we love than the things we don't care for. This is what I was trying to say earlier, and I think Jeff did a better job than I did at explaining it. Is that I do feel like people are like less apt to share the things that they like, because they'll get made fun of for it. Like, and then if they're getting made fun of for it for like liking the thing, then it doesn't feel good to like it, because like, well, so that thing stinks. Everybody thinks that thing stinks. Like Final Fantasy VII is something that I know that Jeff loves. Mm-hmm. There's a lot
what
of
an idiot.
What a moron. Yeah, I can't imagine liking that. Well, as someone who also likes Final Fantasy VII, my algorithm tends to spit out discourse around that series to me, most notably the remakes. And yeah, there's just, I think for the most part, this is what I see, is like people ripping on it for one reason or another. Here's why the remakes suck. Here, whatever it is, I hate them because of XYZ reasons. Like you're talking about, they're easy to identify. But that blows, like, because I don't hate them at all. I think they're great. I think they're wonderful. I love them. I've played them multiple times. I'm looking forward to the third installment. But as I'm not going to go out of my way. Why would I go out of my way to talk about how much I like them publicly? Privately, I can have a conversation with Jeff about like, oh, what did you think about this? But publicly, I'm not going to go talking about how it's this greatest game. It should have won Game of the Year, blah, 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 because the only thing I just received tomatoes thrown at my head for saying that I like the thing. Right. And I think that's very real. I think a lot of people feel that.
There's in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, there's an interview. They're doing like man on the street interviews, and Jim Norton is one of the people interviewed. And they, the question is like, what do you think of Spider-Man? And Jim Norton's entire presence in the entire Spider-Man universe boils down to this one line. All he says is, I don't like him and he stinks. That's it. That's the entirety of Jim Norton in the Spider-Man series. But that's very funny to me. Like that's, my feed is like Jim Norton's just saying, I don't like it and he stinks. Just over and over and over. There's something that's almost worse. Sometimes it is worse when you put out why you like a thing, and that is just tumbleweeds, dead air, radio silence. Nobody cares. This is a big,
all the time.
I mean, this is anytime I post something I like or that is important to me, I get like 2 likes, and you're one of them.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely know what you're talking about. And I'm glad you brought
Nobody
it up.
Nobody cares.
I thought about
why would I bother?
Earlier today too. Is if you share like this is awesome, then it's just crickets.
Yeah. I not everything I send out.
Crickets or tomatoes. Crickets or
Tomatoes.
tomatoes. That's it. That's all you
Yeah.
get.
I mean, at least, the friends list that I've got, the people I follow on Twitter, whatever, the ones who are seeing this stuff, they're curated at this point to a pretty serious degree, right? And so the odds that I'm going to post something I like and somebody even sees it who thinks I'm a complete idiot, they're really low. It's not like it's going out to the general human population at this point. Um, but it takes time and work to do something that you like, whether it's constructing, this is why this movie is really good. It would take you a long time to write a little essay about that. I was thrilled. I saw a tweet like a week ago. Somebody said, "What's a movie that everybody thinks is bad but you love?" And so I posted an image from Over the Top. It made me happy because I didn't have to write a tweet. I didn't have to explain anything. I just had to post the image. Some people recognized the image and liked it. Mission accomplished. That's it. If somebody said, explain why, it's going to take me half an hour to write that tweet and to get it right. Um, you had to explain to Justin why you liked a burrito. That was hard work. You didn't have to explain to me why you don't like celery, or like, I understood it. You throw it out there, I understand it immediately. Well, to go to somebody who has, anybody, but especially Justin, who has a real appreciation for food, you had to make your case on why a burrito was a good death row meal for you. That's hard to do. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes investment, and you throw it out there, and who cares? Well, kind of nobody. And so why bother? Why would you do this? I don't talk about the things I like because what's the point?
That is such a good question, and it really actually bothers me a lot. And it was another thing I was thinking about this morning. It makes the world, well, two things. First of all, if you don't post the things that you like, the terrorists win. Okay, like
Kinda,
it
yeah.
really is kind of like that analogy, where then all you're left with is the swamp, like the negativity swamp. But why would you, when, yeah, like the only one who appreciates it is Kevin Lieber? Like, that's not enough. That's not
Mhm.
enough. No, if there's no one else, there's only one, there's not, 10,000 Kevin Liebers, there's only one. He's the only guy who's like, oh, I'm glad you like something and shared it. And everyone else just gives you a back snapping yawn. Then yeah, you're not motivated to it. It makes you feel bad. Again, it makes you feel bad. It makes you feel like, well, nobody likes the thing that I like. I mean, that was another thing I was thinking of with in terms of how atomized we are in general, is that there's so many books that I can't talk to anyone
Oh,
about. I'm on the second half of Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, um, and I don't know a single person who has read it. It's like I
yeah.
can read a thing and fall in love with it and think it's amazing, and I'm completely on an island with my enjoyment of it, which is really, it sucks.
When you were telling me about Gene Wolfe in his books, you talked about it. We were in a car, and so I was a captive audience. At the same time, I could not participate. All I could do was listen because I don't know anything about Gene Wolfe. I don't know about his books. I hadn't read that one. I couldn't contribute. Like, there's really no way other than to reacting to the things you were saying and ask some questions. But it's not like we were having a real conversation about it. because I couldn't do that. Uh,
I just
it was cool.
literally needed to talk about it.
Yeah, it was awesome to hear. But when we were done talking about it, I was under no illusion that like your life got better. Mine did, but you didn't get anything out of it. You just, got to release the pressure valve on
Yeah,
Gene Wolfe love, which is
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Um, eh, but yeah, this antimatter tape has this point. I put it up on the screen a minute ago. I'll do it again about silent respect, and I do think that exists. I think that a lot of people do approve and respect and take an interest, but they're lurking. They just read it and scroll by. But they notice, they care, but you have no evidence that they do. This is important. I think this is a strong phenomenon, and it's something that you've got to keep in your mind, almost in a delusional way. It's like, yes, there's no evidence that anybody cares about what I'm doing, but I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's a, most of the time I think it is, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. How many, um, how many would it have to be to thrill you? If you tweet about Gene Wolfe, Kevin, if one person replies and is like, "Oh yeah, I read this book. I like this and that, like whatever," like just any substantial reply.
I did get a reply like that. It was basically like, what did they say? They said like, enjoy. He's the master, or something like that.
Yeah, that probably was enough for you, wasn't it?
It was great. It was great. And I want to ask you a question about this silence thing that is something that bothers me, and I've never understood is why people are so frugal with their like giving. It's something that I never
Oh,
understand. It costs you absolutely nothing to press like on Instagram, or on Instagram you can see it's public if you liked a thing, so I can understand that. On X it's not. It likes are hidden now.
right.
So there's no damage to be done by liking whatever you want to like on that platform, and no one does. Like, I will get
Really?
a post that'll have 1,000 impressions and it'll have like 7 likes.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like the the ratio, it
Yeah.
seems impossibly low. You're talking about like less than 1% will
Yep.
just hit the like button. And you know
It
who does hit the like button? Like the same handful of people who
Yes.
are like her, who are likers. You know,
Yeah.
they're the likers, and then no one else is a liker. No one else is a liker.
Not
What?
really.
Why? Why?
I
This is
don't
I
know.
don't it really bothers me. Why won't you like things? You
It,
listening to this podcast, why are you a lurker, a professional lurker, and an anti-liker?
wow. You unleashed the beast with this.
It's annoying.
It
It
really
is.
is
It's
because
really
like
annoying
you pointed out,
because
it's
it's
instant,
discouraging, and there are
it's
so
free,
few
and
people that
there's yeah.
post, that
Yeah.
contribute, and you're not gonna. It doesn't improve your day. It doesn't give you that dopamine spike that you went onto the thing for. It absolutely does. So why won't you like it?
I don't have an answer. I like a lot of stuff.
You're a liker.
Yeah, but also my feed is really well curated at the years ago I went through and just like unfollowed well over half of the stuff I was following. It's just like, I really know what I enjoy at this point. I'm just gonna go through and limit this to the stuff I enjoy and the people I want to follow along with. I follow some people still out of kind of morbid curiosity. I don't like them. I don't approve of their existence, but I'm interested in following that existence.
Uh,
Uh, but not very many. Not very many. Uh, but that makes it easy to, like a lot of stuff because I'm just going through and I'm like, this is this is just fantastic. This is what I signed up for. This is what I opened the app for. Is all this good stuff and this funny joke and this insightful post, and there are a lot of them now. Now that I've separated or freed myself from the mediocrities of the world, I see a lot of really good high level stuff. Um, but yeah, I think it might just be the pace where it's like as soon as they've read the thing, it's
On
scroll
to
to
the
the next one.
next. Right.
Yeah, I think
Jeez.
it's as simple as that. But
Right.
that does reinforce the pace that all of this is happening.
Hmm.
All of this is happening. Um, it's kind of it's kind of frightening in terms of lack of agency required. You know, you talked about agency a couple weeks ago, and I just can't. I I don't know how to put it succinctly. How hard you had to work in the recent past to be exposed to the things you liked versus how it is by the second deluge of the things that you like now. Somebody posted yesterday, a tweet got big enough to have me see it multiple times about this deep cut in comedy history about SpongeBob being in a comedy show in the 90s.
Oh no. Yeah, I
You
saw
know,
that.
yeah, and it was Tom Kenny, the uh, schoolmate schoolmate of Bobcat Goldthwait in high school. I think they both went to Christian Brothers Academy in Syracuse. But he was on Mr. Show in the 90s. You know, Boss Threads, who posts around a lot, he and I loved Mr. Show in the 90s. It was like it was the best thing on TV when I was in high school. And you had to make sure that you were in front of your TV to watch it on HBO. I think it was Fridays at midnight. The reruns, you had to look at the paper guide, the HBO guide that came in the mail, to see when it would be played. You had to, work hard to find it. You talked with Justin, and you have in the past, about how your difficult slog to get your eyeballs on anime.
Oh, it's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, that was real work. You had to put in a lot of effort to watch Mr. Show. Now, any clip I want to see, I can have on YouTube in 5 seconds of searching. Well, you like anime? You could craft a feed on any social platform that was just 100% anime related material and commentary. It's constant. It's constant. And you can get what you want with being almost completely passive. That's, and this comes back to the big phenomenon that we started talking about, is that the negative reactions, the spazzing out in all sorts of different ways, the inability to process the good stuff kind of appropriately. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you have a constant, perfectly designed for you feed of things that you are entirely passive in acquiring and then processing? You sit there, the world comes to you, designed for you, and then all you do is react.
This is why there's no liking. You're exactly right. Is that to like is to show the smallest sliver modicum of agency humanly possible, because you have to stop the scroll and think, I like this and I'm going to double tap or I'm going to single tap. And that is an interruption
Yeah.
of the river of slime that is your algorithm.
It's actually asking a lot to
It's
have
asking you to
somebody.
to paddle. You gotta. I don't want to paddle on the
Yep.
slime river. Just
Yeah.
just drag me away, slime
Right.
river.
Float on the lazy slime river forever with a cocktail in your hand.
Yeah.
It's like permanent paradise.
Hmm.
Versus, why doesn't somebody just stop that and do something way worse?
Hmm. No.
uh, yeah. Um, this is another big one. I put it on the screen. I'll do it again. From tape about people tying their identities
Hmm.
to all of these different things, and I think that's part of the Red Sox problem too. Is the people who are heavy presences in the Sox community. That is a major part of their identity. Well, when things with your identity are going really badly, it's bad. It's bad. When they're going really well, it's incredible. You do see this, you see this in the sports stuff. I think it's more prevalent with national sports. We saw this with the World Cup, where look, there are a lot of countries that only do one thing, and it's soccer. That's the only sport that they're like truly competitive with. Well, what happens with the national team in the only thing that you're good at matters a lot. And it is part of a national identity. It's part of your identity. So you see the passion that happens in a way, you know, if the Jets play the Browns, nobody's going hyper bananas on either side. They've all got work Monday. They've all got bills to pay. Well, when your national team is doing something and they're good at it, it's high stakes, it's once every 4 years. That's a heightened experience. Uh, but I think that this phenomenon that we used to see with just like the World Cup every 4 years and a certain number of countries is now stuff like liking Final Fantasy. It's you get so much more of that one thing that you take it personally for both better and worse, but mostly worse.
People will literally make it their identity. They'll make it their handle.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I'm Final Fantasy Kevin, and my avatar is of, Cloud, and so is my banner is so fun. Like literally clothe themselves in the fandom.
Yeah. I'm putting another comment up from Woody about the absence of dislikes changing the value of a like. That I completely agree with. And I think, we certainly saw that on YouTube with
Mhm.
the dislike button going away. But yeah, what is a like if it's not opposite a dislike? What happens when you can't dislike something? That's Soviet / Nicaraguan at this point, where it really does matter that you say, I can choose between these two options. I want you to know which one I've chosen. Here it is. Well, when the full context of that is not just hidden, but removed, the closest thing we've got is the comment ratio on a tweet. And that was such a big thing a couple years ago, somebody getting ratioed on Twitter. Um, but now when I see something that has 800 likes and 10,000 comments, I know which way it's going to go. Like, that's
Mhm.
precisely because they can't thumbs down the thing. Um, it's an important element of context, right? Uh, I do think the identity thing is more important. I think people dismiss it as being obvious. I think there's more to it. And I wish somebody like a Rob Henderson who will, write 1,200 words on a phenomenon like this and really do a good job of giving a treatment, would tackle that kind of thing. It's bigger than us, I think.
Right. Well, I have sort of like a tangential but related thing that I want to throw at you. And I think that we differ on this. This is why I think it'll be interesting. Is I was thinking, I don't know what prompted this this morning, but I was thinking how so when we were at the very beginning of the podcast, mentioning that I'm like not much of a hater, more of a disappointer. I I think the reason for that is that my bell curve is not a bell curve of like
Hmm.
enjoyment. Let me break it down for you this way. I think most things stink.
Hmm.
Some things are okay, and then very few things are great,
Okay.
and that's it. That's it. I don't even know if I think that good is a category in that. That's what I was
Mm,
trying to determine. I was like, is anything good or is it just okay? And I might have to
yeah.
think about it more in order to understand that distinction. But as of right now and of recording this podcast and as of today, I'm going with most things stink. Some stuff is okay. And then very few things are just awesome, just great.
Yeah, that's a decent point. I'm a lot closer to a bell curve on that, but I understand what you're saying about the things that are better than average and worse than average. It's really hard to place something in that category. It's hard because it's got elements that make it worse than that or better than that.
Well, and when it comes to a usage of your time, because that's
Mm,
really all any of this conversation is about, is how are you using your time? Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird on this, and if I'm like, I don't really want to spend my time on this, I'm going to throw it into the above ground sized pool of it stinks. And then I
yeah.
have like a bathtub of it's good, it's okay. See, I tripped
Yeah.
over my own phrasing. And then a bucket is great.
Yeah, that's a decent breakdown. Um, and it tempers. I think it tempers the reaction to all the stuff that you think stinks because you can't freak out with any substance about 90% of things.
No, no.
You just can't. It's not possible. Uh, it would take all day long, and we do see people doing this with political stuff, and everybody knows those people are not normal. They're not balanced, functioning, decent, happy people. They just aren't. You can't spend 12 hours a day every single day for 10 or 12 or 20 years uh, focusing on the swimming pool full of stink,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, and kind of have any kind of normal life. Um, yeah, it's cool to focus on the bucket, to place things in the bucket and then talk about why the bucket is good. And this is why I do like the guys like Johnny Millennium, who just take the time to stir the bucket.
Well, I like Nixon the man here in the chat said championship or suckage. And there is like a very clear sports analogy to my broken bell curve, which is only one team is the champion. Only one.
Yeah.
You got 32. One is the champion. You could probably say that like four other ones were like pretty good. And then the rest of them, garbage.
Yeah. And this does hit the difference between you and I on sports stuff. During football season, I love the games that are in really bad weather. There are games you don't even
Mm.
watch because you're like, this is going to be luck based outcome because like skills are nullified by horrible, horrible weather. I'll look at the box score at the end instead of spending 3 hours watching this game. I love those games, even though I know it's not going to be good football. It's not, the players are not able to play football to the best of their abilities in that kind of weather. I don't care. I like I like the game and the way it turns out based on like, yeah, based on the crazy things that happen in bad weather. That's still interesting to me. But that's an example of that being much closer to a bell curve, instead of just being like, yeah, this blows. Um, Consequently, I spend a lot more time on things that stink than you do. Is that a good thing? Probably not. It's probably not great, to have 3 hours that are really substandard in your life, as opposed to, like, well, I've identified that this is going to stink, so I will do something that doesn't stink. I'll stick my head in the great bucket with something else that's probably more useful.
It's a great bucket. Um, I got no username says, I'm not sure if it's interesting or kind of depressing that anything and everything that bores you or you dislike is someone's favorite thing. I'm not sure how to interpret that. So,
Um,
so like for example, like
I'm
I
putting this on screen.
I am not a fan of Taylor Swift's music, and millions of people are and think that she is the
Billions.
greatest artist on planet Earth.
Yeah.
That does not bother me at all. I don't lose sleep over that. It's not for me. Like I'm perfectly happy and willing to say that, that's cool that you like that. I, I, it's okay that you do, and it's okay that I don't, and we'll just leave it at that. Okay, that doesn't upset me, and I think it's unhealthy when people get upset over. It's like, well, let's go back to Mr. Show. There's a great skit on Mr. Show of a hipster. And this was like this was really before hipsters were a thing. Mr. Show was making fun of hipsters like almost a decade earlier, where David Cross is playing this character who hates CDs because the only pure way to listen to music is like a Vitrola or something like that. Or he
And
hates
vinyl.
on vinyl, and he hates television. Notice I didn't call it TV because TV is a nickname and nicknames are for friends, and television is no friend of mine. Like,
It was
so
insanely funny.
that attitude, I think, is really a loser mentality.
Well, it's thinking about what other people are doing at all.
Oh, that's true.
And
Right.
that's
Yeah,
one of
I
the different.
really don't care.
Yeah, I don't either, and it's not because I dislike the people or the. It just it's not my life. If you enjoy chain watching Taylor Swift videos, that's cool. I don't care. I don't think less of you. It's not my life. That's okay. But yeah, it's the John Hamm meme that's like, I don't think about you at all. The I feel bad for you. Yeah, I don't feel bad for Taylor Swift fans. I just don't think about them at all.
Right.
And I can't imagine why they would ever think about me.
They will not.
No, they won't. Oh, well, I suppose that's a difference between hobbies and crimes.
Crimes?
For
Why are we?
some people, I'm
We're not.
sure there's an intersection.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
We're
so
not
much for
talking
us.
about crimes. It's not the podcast for crimes.
Yeah, that goes back to the identity thing, though. Is you know where am I in the place of people who like music? I like this, and it's important for you to know that I also don't like that. And because you like this other thing that I don't, we're different in different places on this spectrum. I That just doesn't occur to me ever with anything really. Um, but you only think about those things when something is a real component of your identity. It's who you are and who you're not, and then you start comparing to other people who may have made different different selections when they built their character.
Right. Yeah, you see that in like heavy metal
Mm.
communities where it's like, oh, you don't listen to real metal. Oh, that's what you listen to. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
listen to sludge metal from a Taint. I listen to Taint sludge metal. You've never heard of it, and that's because like you're so mainstream and you need to get out of my face. You don't know anything about Taint sludge metal. That reminds me of that kind of. I guess they call it gatekeeping, but
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. I think.
Well, this is it's an array of issues that I think are ever present at this point. The
They're
only
not
way
going
not to be,
away.
none of them are going away. And anytime you open your phone or sit at the desk, you are subject to these. Um, I don't think it's a good idea to ignore it all, to, switch to a landline to kill your internet service. That's a dumb solution to me. Um, but I don't think anybody's really thinking about how this impacts their constant experience. Um, I don't think there's any incentive for anybody to really describe it or talk about it either. So I suspect
No.
that we won't really hear anything useful until there are diagnostics of the really negative consequences. Right? We've seen that now with the way people process the presence of porn. Like there's been enough time to measure attitudes and experiences mixed to the matched with the access to pornography to draw some conclusions about its effect on the human experience. We know that. But the access is not any different now than it was 15 years ago. 15 years ago, if you tried to make the case that there was a destructive element to it, potentially negative consequences, you were, a moralizer on a soapbox. Nobody was really interested in what you were saying. We're seeing it with just screen time with kids. This is a tremendous issue that everybody has an opinion on now, from the parent level to the state level of school stuff. Well, that's not like it started in 2025. Like
Right.
cheap constant screens have been a thing for 10 years. 10 years. It's not like only now do I see people pushing around strollers with kids glued to an iPad in them. Like, no, it's been a really long time that I've seen that. But now there's some stuff that can be measured, and some proof, one way or the other that people can make their case with. I feel like this is going to be similar, where, 5 years from now, it's going to be more obvious what the consequences are.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if we eventually get to a place where people are overwhelmingly tired of the overwhelming negativity.
Why would they be, especially if they've never experienced anything else? We have, because we're elderly.
I don't know. I'm not saying
We
that
know
that,
the
that this
difference.
this will happen, but things do go in seasons, and maybe at some point that has a seasonality, um, and people find that cringe. Right now, people find liking things cringe. Maybe eventually, being a hater will just become. I mean, you do see a lot of pushback on like a lot of YouTubers who are called grifters because all they do is like latch on to some whatever topic that people are talking about and then they crap on it. Like that does exist. There is a lot of
Yeah.
pushback on that. Maybe there'll be pushback on more of it in the
Well, I
future.
think the best, quickest antidote is simply to go hard on things you enjoy. It's that simple. It's that simple. You engage in the things you like with people you like. You watch the things you like. With the Red Sox, I stopped essentially participating in the Red Sox community, which was almost all lurking. I like it from a distance, but I stopped, and I still like the games, so I watched the games with no commentary, no Twitter, just raw baseball, and it was cool. That was good. Well, I've had a great time with this unexpected turnaround. Um, Instead of the I'm glad that we got to this point and we went through all of this without really talking about the Odyssey stuff, because it's insanity to me. The all the discussion around it, it's just been everything for a couple weeks, and it's so much of it is just idiotic to me. Um, just read the Odyssey, see if you like it. Watch the movie, see if you like it. What's hard about that?
I want to throw, I know we're trying to wrap up, but I want to throw something that I wanted to mention before, and then one of our commenters did, which Beanie Boy B mentioned Smiling Friends.
Oh
And
yeah,
Smiling Friends was a good example of me being really annoyed about the negativity and everybody hating everything, because I felt like on this third season, like the first two seasons, well, the first season it was like a niche, right? It
Mhm.
was like kind of like you were in this little weird club of people who knew about Smiling Friends and loved it. Season 2, that thing exploded, and
Yeah,
all of a sudden, like everyone latched onto and rightfully loved Smiling Friends. By season 3, I like it was like the tide was turning, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these people were being like, "Oh, now it's cringe," and like now it's becoming Rick and Morty, and it's having its Rick and Morty moment, and like you saw all this negativity around Smiling Friends, and I was like, "What are we doing? Really?" It's the show is so excellent. It's as good as it's ever been,
yeah.
but it had reached enough of a critical mass, and it had like enough of a time for the douchebags to start complaining about it, that these douchebags started complaining about it, and that was very annoying and frustrating to me.
And there was more stuff too to have those easy reactions. Like when it started, you couldn't compare seasons because they didn't exist. You just had what you had. By the time season 3 hit, people could say, "Well, I like the other season better. This thing was funnier. This style, whatever." There was something to compare it to. That didn't exist until a few seasons came out. And so the conditions to have the easy judgments, the easy reactions, that low-hanging cognitive fruit wasn't there to pluck until it got going a bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's my time to shine. I'm going to be the guy who hates Smiling Friends because that's so
But if it's
unique and fun and interesting, and
if
I'll get
if it's
attention.
easy,
Give me
but
attention.
I don't think it's conscious at all. I mean, when a thought occurs to you clear as day, it seems right. It seems accurate. It seems insightful. And if critical and negative judgments, all of that are easier and clearer for everybody, it feels like wisdom when it hits. A lot of times it is. I'm not saying that negativity is bad. I'm a world class hater with a lot of different things. I feel very good about that. Um, but it certainly feels like it's accurate, it's useful, it's valuable. It's much harder to have that same feeling about any kind of positive judgment. It just is. You don't have the same sensation. It's the clarity is not there like it is with you taking a bite of raw celery, and instantly why you don't like it and how to tell somebody precisely why you don't like it. You can make that case. Full confidence. Well, if it's Kevin, tell me why my last meal should be a burrito. You get to decide my last meal. You've chosen burrito. Tell me why. You're like, that's a hard one.
I
That's a
know
hard one.
I get that it's hard. It just the Smiling Friends example was a strong one to me about this what I'm talking about, where it just seems like so we just don't like anything. So like everything sucks. Like no matter what it is, it sucks. And
A lot of stuff sucks.
not only that, but then
A
people
swimming
be
pool of
like,
sludge sucks.
people will like retroactively be like, I actually never even liked that. I thought it always sucked. Like all of that is just so boring and frustrating to me. How about you like something? Oh, who's mentioning Andy Griffith? I've been watching Andy Griffith.
Nixon did.
Oh my gosh,
I
Nixon,
have.
you're like
I
tapping
pulled an
into my
Andy.
brain.
I pulled an Andy Griffith item for you. It's by my front
Really?
door to give to you. The other day I
Yay.
pulled it. Yeah, two of them
Oh,
actually. Two.
ah, I watched an episode the other day where Opie becomes friends with a hobo. And it's literally called like Opie and the Hobo or something like that is the name of the episode. And the hobo is teaching Opie like all of the wrong life lessons,
Mm.
basically turning Opie into a hobo. And at first, like Andy is like very kind, welcoming, and supportive of the hobo. And then once he sees like Opie ditching school, because why go to school when you can just go fishing?
You ride the rails.
Yeah, baby. Then yeah, then he has a change of heart, and the hobo's gotta go on to the next town, buddy. You gotta
So you
get out
gotta
of Mayberry, move
got
on,
to
like
keep on keeping
Rambo.
on.
Like, yeah, like John Rambo. Get out of Hope, Washington, or whatever it is.
Well, I know you're wrapping up, but making industry saying people aren't taught the common sense at this point. I think exposure to common sense is different than it used to be, and I think that's something we should talk about at a future juncture. Is the Andy Griffith thing reminded me of this, is that you would turn on the network TV at night and have an onslaught of common sense to the point of boredom. Stuff like the Andy Griffith show rested on.
It's the whole show.
There are no surprises in the Andy Griffith show.
It's the simplest
None.
morality play. Yeah.
There are no surprises in 99% of Westerns, right? There
Mm-hmm.
aren't. All of that stuff, things play out the way you think they're going to, and the way they should. And if it doesn't, it's because there's a catastrophic decision, or something happened that made the right outcome impossible. Things aren't like that anymore, right? Not very often at all. Everybody is some sort of fish out of water. Every plot has twists and turns that just are several standard deviations from the main. That can make for really entertaining stuff. But the basics, you have to work really hard to get the basics at this point.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for us. We'll be back next week. Thank you to everybody for joining this live stream. It was a nice crowd, and I appreciate all of your comments. And if you want to become a patron of the show, go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown. Until then, we'll be back next week, and we will see you.